Good morning and welcome to the Honor and Knowledge channel. Today is Thursday, December 11th. Yesterday when I weighed myself for the Hungry Strike for America official weekly weigh-in, I lost another pound. That's a total of 21. You can see on the second line of stars, which I add 1 star for every pound lost, all the way to the left is the 21st star. Also, I get to color in another state on the official map of the United States for the Hungry Strike for America. And this week, I get to color in the free state of Florida. Yep, my state. They were number 21 in the list of states by percentile who voted for President Trump in last year's election. As you recall, at the beginning of my video series on the Hungry Strike for America and the election of 2026, I did a deep dive on the senators and the congressmen for each state as I colored it in. A couple weeks ago, I lost 3 pounds in 1 week, and then Thanksgiving, and I got way too busy, way too many senators and congressmen. But today we're going to do a somewhat recovery from that, and we'll be going over the senators. I'll be talking about the 3 states that went with my 3 pound loss, 1 pound last week and 1 pound this week. In 17th position was Montana, with 58.39% in favor of President Trump last year. One of their 2 senators, Senator Steve Daines, is up for re-election next year. Senator Tim Sheehy, their other senator, just got elected in 2024. What's of tremendous interest to me is that he is a Naval Academy graduate from 2008 and a SEAL. He was a Navy SEAL. By the way, that's a reminder, Army-Navy football game this weekend. You know, Army, Navy, and Air Force, they don't do name, image, likeness, money payoff to their football players. They don't have a transfer portal where players can come in every year into their teams. At the Naval Academy, they can leave, but they can't replenish their teams after the beginning of the 4-year period. So the Army-Navy football players are actually patriots destined to serve our country and put down their lives for the protection of you and me. That game starts at 3 o'clock on Saturday, and I believe it's on CBS. In number 18 position is South Carolina, with 58.23% for President Trump. South Carolina senators, there is 1 up for re-election next year, and that's Senator Lindsey Graham, a retired colonel out of the Air Force Reserves, I believe. He was in their Judge Advocate General, the legal corps for the Air Force, but he retired as a full-bird colonel. Their other senator is one I actually like very much, but the last time he ran for re-election, he said that he thought that was going to be his last run for election, and that's Senator Tim Scott. In number 19 position is Kansas, with 57.16% voting for President Trump last year. Kansas Senator Roger Marshall is up for re-election in 2026. He is a doctor, served in the Army Reserve also. Their other senator not up for re-election is Senator Jerry Moran. In number 20 position is Texas, with 56.14% having voted for President Trump last year. The Texas senator that is up for re-election next year is Senator John Cornyn, a very powerful senator, as well as Senator Cruz is from Texas, who's not up for re-election. And back to the great state of Florida, in number 21 position, voted 56.09% for President Trump last year. Yep, one of our 2 senators is up for re-election next year. That would be Senator Ashley Moody. When Senator Rubio was appointed as Secretary of State by President Trump, then Governor DeSantis appointed Ashley Moody as the senator. So she has to run for re-election in 2026. The other senator from Florida, Rick Scott, just won re-election last year. So there you go. The 5 states, we've gone over their senators a little bit. The 5 senators, 1 from each state that are up for re-election next year, I don't believe will have any problems being re-elected. And my understanding is they all are going to run for re-election. All 5 of them, to me, are solid senators for our country. Now, we're not going to go over the congressmen from the different 5 states this week, but we'll do that next week, along with whatever state I get to talk about. So with regards to the 2026 elections, as I watched President Trump give his speech in Pennsylvania this week, I realized that President Trump and the Republican Party are back on track. He gave credit to Susie Wiles as the reason why he's starting back on the campaign speech program. But she was his campaign chief. She knows what to do, and President Trump will do it. So here's a concise summary of the 2026 elections. With regard to redistricting, we're not going to know the full impact of that until the Supreme Court decision on the Racial Gerrymandering and Voting Rights Act comes out. That should be in early 2026. based upon that, there'll be some additional redistricting or greater redistricting by some Republican-controlled states. If the Supreme Court decision keeps things the way that they are, Republicans will gain a few House seats compared to the Democrats. If the Supreme Court decision is the way that I think it should be, which is against racial gerrymandering, and that the Voting Rights Act itself had some parts of it that was unconstitutional, then I believe that the Republican-controlled states will be doing some additional redistricting, probably will result in some additional Republican seats. Speaker Johnson spoke about this last week. He and I both believe that the redistricting efforts will increase the number of Republican House seats. And as he also pointed out last week, in reality, it's the Democrats in some Trump-leaning districts that are at risk. Now, it's not as sugar plummy as Speaker Johnson, I think, said last week, but I do have a lot of faith and trust in both Speaker Johnson and President Trump. I believe that their efforts and the efforts of a lot of other people are going to result in the House staying in the Republican world. Having said that, there's a tremendous amount of work that has to be done for that. Now, with regard to the Senate, I believe sincerely that we not only will maintain our control of the Senate, but will probably increase some seats. I'll be talking about that in the future at greater length. So there you go. We retain the House with a tremendous amount of work for us to do, but President Trump and Speaker Johnson and a lot of other people will be doing that. We will retain the Senate and maybe increase our seats. And the full impact of redistricting depends upon the Supreme Court, but no matter which way they go, the Republicans will gain a few. All the rest of the stuff you hear about is just conjecture, theory, talk for money purposes. But remember, I don't need money from you guys. I just need you to listen, subscribe, and support me on my journey on the Hungry Strike for America. So let's get back to that. The journey I'm on with the Hungry Strike for America has nothing to do with drugs or operations or paying anybody any money for their food to be delivered to my house. It's all about learning to eat less calories, burn more calories, and eat smart with what I do eat. You know what the major side effect is from the Hungry Strike for America? Waist size is going down. So I'm going to put out a special edition of the Hungry Strike for America, giving the mathematical calculations with regard to how much weight you have to go down to go from one size to another. Interestingly, it's not the same amount of weight to go down each weight size. The first weight size is highest amount of weight, but it gets easier and easier and easier to go down in waist sizes. It means it's easier and easier and easier to become healthier, healthier, and healthier. As the old saying is, even the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So the weight loss journey starts with the first pound and keeps going on from there, and it gets easier and easier and easier. Thank you for watching these videos. It is truly an honor to have people watch my videos. My videos are a reward that I give myself for losing weight. I put that star on the sign, I color in the state, and then I make a video. Obviously, a big way of losing weight is to have a good reason for losing weight. Health is obviously that big reason, but there's always some other motivation. Mine is to take care of my family for as long as I can, be part of the United States, and vote for the United States properly in the future. So the longer I'm around, the longer I can vote. There you go. There's a direct connection between Make America Great Again and the Hungry Strike for America. So if patriots make America healthy again, they'll also make America great again. Lose weight and keep voting. As I said, thank you for watching this video. God bless you. God bless President Trump and the United States of America. But before I go, remember, Army-Navy football game this Saturday. Watch it with your kids, watch it with your grandkids, remind your friends. It is a wonderful game to watch. It is wonderful people to support.